she died when he was 12 years old.
He was 12, nearly 13, yes.
Yeah.
Not many times, but I did really eke it out of her because when I last saw her, which was, very shortly before she died, I was writing a book about William and Harry, and I really wanted to talk to her about them, and she opened up, as she always did, and she said that at one time she really worried about William because he had no interest. Yeah, I don't want to be king. That was when they were younger. But then she started to be concerned about Harry because she said he had no interest in learning. He never picked up a book. I know he's dyspraxic, which makes it more difficult, but she obviously really tried to help him. But all Harry really wanted to do was have his mother to himself.
Right.
And he would sometimes, pretend that he was ill at school, so she'd come and pick him up and take him home, and then he could sit watching television with her all afternoon and snuggle up to her. He was a very tactile young boy and very, very close to his mother. And I remember after William went on his gap year, way back on Operation Raleigh, Harry said when he came back, he's much nicer now. So this myth that Harry and William were very close is a myth. They were only close, really close, after their mother died. Of course, they unified, and they were the only two people that knew what it felt like. But they weren't very close as youngsters.
Well, Harry mentions this quite a bit. He talks about the sibling rivalry, and he moaned in spare, saying that he complained that William ignored him when he went to Eton, which big brothers sometimes do. Your younger brother's embarrassing. But did Diana ever talk about this sibling rivalry that we're seeing playing out now? I mean, he's called the books... We keep banging on about this book. It was years ago. He called the book Spare. He still has a problem with the fact that he is the younger brother to William. Did Diana ever mention that or see that as a problem between the
Yes,
boys?
I mean, we talked about it quite a lot because she said, I worry for Harry because... and I'm really, really careful that he's not treated differently than William because, for instance, when they used to go and see the Queen Mother, she'd pat the chair and say, come and sit here, William, and completely ignore Harry, and that really upset Diana, and that's one of the reasons she said to me she wanted him to go to Eton rather than some other school which might have suited him better. She said, because she didn't want people to say he's stupid, he can't get in there. She was very concerned about his sort of feeling of inadequacy with William.
So did it play out as children? Did Diana suggest that it was obvious that Harry had a problem with his older brother?
Yes, even when they were very little, when William first went to Miss Minor's, which was the baby school. When Harry first went there after William had been there, they showed the teacher there said to him, "Here, Harry, play with this clay." And so William used to be really good at this, making model figures. So Harry picked up the clay and threw it down and said, no. So from a very, very young age, Harry felt inadequate. Now, it was nothing to do with Diana, nothing to do with Charles, but it was just there. It may have been, maybe it was to do with the nannies, because, of course, I'm not talking about Barbara Barnes, who was completely brilliant, but sometimes the nanny will focus on the more important child. It's just a matter of what happens. Happened when Charles was young, and Prince Philip actually fired the nanny. But it could have been that, but he was always very conscious of being second in command.
Did Diana ever suggest a way of resolving that? Did she fear for the future in any way, or did you ever discuss how she thought the boys might grow up with this kind of atmosphere?
I think she feared more, as William was growing up, because he was 15 when she died, or yes, he was 15, and Harry was 12 going on 13. She worried much more for Harry because she just wasn't sure which way he was going to go. And when he was a little boy, William used to bully him quite a lot, which is perfectly normal. And Harry would always take the blame for the scrapes they'd get into. Again, perfectly normal with young boys. But Diana was very conscious of Harry being a very sensitive child. And she wondered, if it was the right school, what he was going to do. Was he going to follow his love, which was the army, even as a little boy?
Well, didn't Harry always used to say that he wanted to become a police officer and protect Diana?
Yes, he did.
Yeah, he did, yeah.
Yes, and Harry William used to say, I don't want to be king. And Harry said, don't worry, I'll be king. So it was planted very, very young, that seed of William having the privilege. And Harry, of course, didn't really understand. In a way, it's better to be the spare than the heir.
Knowing what you knew about Diana, as I say many times that you met her, do you think she'd be proud of what Harry has done, or do you think she would not look favourable on his actions from recent years?
I think Diana would be proud of what Harry's done, because Diana wanted to do it herself. She wanted to go and live in America, and she even looked at properties in Malibu, and she had this sort of fantasy idea that she would be much happier in America. Then she realised that of course she'd be separated by 5,000 miles from the boys, and she couldn't deal with that. That was not going to happen. So I think the fact that Harry, I suppose you could say, escaped from the royal fold, I think she'd be very proud of that. What she wouldn't like is this fallout with the family. She would really hate that.
She wouldn't have been happy that Harry had fallen out with William, surely? She
wouldn't be at all happy that Harry had fallen out with William, and she always said to them, please remember, you don't ever forget that you're brothers, and I want you to be friends. So even back then she was talking about it. No, she'd be very unhappy, and that would worry her about Harry. But I think she would be proud of the fact that he managed to make the break.
OK, very interesting. The Princess of Wales. She's back with a bang. We've seen this incredible video that the palace has produced this week, in which wonderful images of the Princess of Wales with her children and William, but also wonderful words saying that she has finished her chemotherapy treatment and is intending to return to work. This is the good news that we were waiting for, isn't it, Ingrid?
It certainly is. I mean, what the Princess hasn't done is actually said when she's going to come back to work, because, of course, with something like cancer, although she's finished the chemo, as she explains, it's not the end of the journey.
Yeah, that was a really important message from her, wasn't it? And she was almost like speaking to other people who have cancer, and I think that's part of her journey, is to kind of communicate with other people going through similar diagnosis.
I think that's what helps her do it, because she is essentially a very private person, and so to be this public and affectionate and open would not be a natural thing. But if she's doing it to help other people suffering, there's a purpose to it. There's a big purpose to it. And I understood, from reading papers yesterday and the day before, that the cancer charities are very happy with what she's done, which is a real feather in her cap.